Chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett is titled The Streets of Mos Espa, and once again, this show is getting better and better. This episode really got me in particular because of two wonderful actor cameos, as well as having absolutely gorgeous music. And for a shorter episode of only 39 minutes, it's going to be very hard to keep this review short. The plot is growing, and it is definitely getting dangerous. Our first cameo is from actor Stephen Root, who gets an audience with Boba Fett to discuss a gang who keeps stealing from his personal supply. Stephen's character is a water vendor who struck a deal with moisture farmers and is now selling water. Not only that, but he also explains to Boba that no one in Mos Espa respects him. They think he is no one, especially when Mos Espa is already sectioned off between 3 different groups. Boba decides to take action with this moment and silence this gang in hopes of earning the respect of Mos Espa. But this is where the water vendor starts getting hard to trust. His character seems to mean well, but it all changes when Boba confronts the gang outside of his shop. Instead of making them pay for the goods they stole, Boba offers them all a job working under him, and the constant side-eye we get from the water vendor and just the complete shock on his face tells me that this was all part of a bigger plan that will be revealed somewhere down the line, or maybe I may just be overthinking this character. I will say though, this whole gang is actually really cool. They do seem a little out of place. Everything from their speeders to their cybernetic enhancements to their clothing just says high-end and well-off. So why are they on Tatooine of all places? It throws me off, but I still like it nonetheless. We do get yet another flashback sequence in the Bacta tank, but this one is much shorter and much darker. Boba rides his bantha into Mos Eisley, where we get some great shots tying into the Mandalorian. As he rides into town, we see the stormtrooper helmets resting on pikes, as well as a quick glimpse of Peli Motto walking by with her pit droids. They were both quick, which I loved, and it didn't take away from the story. It just shows how connected the stories are between The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, which I really appreciated. Boba meets with the Pikes to discuss protection for the Tuskens. The Pikes explain that they do not want to pay protection for 2 parties. The Pikes are already paying protection money to the Kenton Striders, while Boba is wanting to collect on behalf of the Tuskens. Boba decides to handle it so that the Tuskens can have what they deserve. Sadly though, when Boba returns, he finds that the Tusken camp has been burned down and all of the Tuskens have been killed. The whole scene is absolutely heartbreaking as Boba is trying so hard to get back on his feet and to give back to the Tuskens everything that he can, and the one time he leaves, they're all killed. I will say the music in this scene is absolutely incredible and builds the scene up perfectly, but as the viewers, we don't get the time to mourn with Boba as he is quickly pulled out of the dream. And I mean physically pulled out, as Black Chrysanthemum rips him from the Bacta tank. Boba puts up as much of a fight as he can while being unarmed and undressed, but thankfully he doesn't have to go through this fight alone as the speeder gang runs in to help, just in time too, as Boba was definitely losing this fight. And this scene really helps play out the uniqueness of this gang. Even the weapons they're using just match the classic biker gang feel perfectly. While they are this Star Wars equivalent, we can see weapons that would resemble switchblades, tire irons, and even chain link. They are able to win the fight though as they drop Black Chrysanthemum into the pit that once held the Rancor and keep him as a prisoner. The next morning, Boba plans on making a response to this assassination attempt when the twins arrive to issue an apology, and this is where it gets interesting. The twins say they are sorry for sending Black Chrysanthemum to kill him, and as a gift to make amends, they present Boba with a Rancor, guided by my favorite cameo, the one and only Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo has worked with director Robert Rodriguez on a number of projects, so this really isn't something of a surprise, but I was nearly jumping with joy because it's just so cool to see him in the Star Wars universe. But Boba graciously accepts the gift and releases Black Chrysanthemum, who quickly runs off after the twins. The Rancor is brought into the palace, and Danny Trejo's character begins explaining that Rancors have feelings and that they bond with their owners. Danny's character agrees to train Boba on how to bond with the Rancor and even ride him. So this is definitely going to lead to some awesome fights. However, much like the water vendor, I am hesitant to trust Danny's character as he did arrive with the twins. 8D8 arrives though to pull Boba away from the Rancor. Boba was trying to get in touch with the mayor again, but 8D8 explains that he will be unavailable for at least the next 20 days. Boba instantly takes off to Mos Espa to catch him before he leaves, taking his new gang with him. Once again, the Mayors Twilight attempts to stop Boba from seeing the mayor, but Fennec has had enough of it and threatens his life. The Twi'lek plays it cool and attempts to make room in the mayor's schedule, but instead sneaks out the back and attempts to make a getaway in a land speeder. Boba's speeder gang takes pursuit after him through the streets of Mos Espa, crashing into vendor stalls and droids of all kinds until he eventually crashes into a marketplace. Boba comes flying out of the sky using his jetpack, ready to confront the Twi'lek when he finally breaks and says that the mayor is working for the Pikes. Boba sends his gang on reconnaissance to see what they can find, and what they do end up finding is roughly a dozen Pikes coming off of a starliner here in Mos Espa. Fennec knows exactly what this means. They are about to go to war. Overall, this episode was probably one of the better ones as far as pacing goes. We only had a small flashback and spent most of the time in the present. Seeing Stephen Root was awesome, but having Danny Trejo playing a character that will be close to Boba is an absolute delight. I am definitely looking forward to seeing more of what his character has to offer. The music in this episode was truly incredible, and it is just building up the excitement I have for the coming episodes. But that's all that I have to say about the streets of Mos Espa. But what were your thoughts? Do you like that we're finally getting more of the present day action as opposed to flashbacks? How do you feel about the Pikes having a larger presence in the story? And who was your favorite cameo? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. As always, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And remember, the Force will be with you. Always.